Hello and welcome back to the ZX Spectrum. My name's Brandon Ruff.
And my name's Lizzie Hodgson, and today we're joined by Mark McColloch, who's currently a virtual CMO for the hospitality and leisure sector. Prior to this, he was CEO of a multi-award-winning food and drink creative agency, after a career spanning the likes of Pret A Manger. How do you pronounce that? Is it Pret A Manger?
Pret A Manger, yeah.
Sushi, and lastminute.com, amongst many, many others. What he doesn't know about marketing in this sector, frankly, isn't worth knowing. So welcome, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy. So it's Friday, not too much on my plate today. So yeah, I'm feeling excited for the weekend if this wind will die down. So,
yeah, pretty
fantastic.
Pretty windy for a lot of people, I think.
Well, Mark, I'm always interested. What got you into the kind of hospitality leisure sector to begin with?
Yeah, well, it was a bit of luck actually. So I was working with Barclaycard at the time, and I didn't enjoy it. So I was really not a good fit for that company. Just I'm maybe a little bit more loose and informal than they might like. So it was a great learning experience, but not ideal. So I was always flicking through Marketing Week and just seeing if there's any jobs and things like that. I hadn't looked at it for a while, and it came up saying Senior Marketing Manager for Sushi. So I saw it, wages were okay, it was less than I was on, but finance versus hospitality, and I thought taking the hit is going to be good for me, good for my mental health and good for my career and my happiness. So yeah, luckily got that job. There's a little bit of a lead up to it though, which was as my CV, I sent them a ransom note where I said to them, help, I've been captured by a bunch of bankers, please help me escape, blah, blah, blah. And that was enough to at least stand out to get onto a shortlist. And I was lucky that they were, and this is a bit of a theme for today maybe, is they were looking for someone outside of hospitality that could come in and give their input from e-com, travel, lifestyle, finance, whatever, music as well. So that really helped. So I gave them that. And then I got the call for the interview. I was really drunk at Blur at Hyde Park. And I had to get my act together for the next day. I had to go and see the CEO and the HR director, but it was 5 interviews to get that job. 5. They were very. It was a good thing, I think they had to be very sure. At the time was a very kind of a bit of a gang. It was a lot of the founding people were in it, and you had to join in with them and fit around them. So they had to be sure that it was the right person, but hopefully it was for that time period. So yeah, that was a big thing. But once I got into hospitality though, and I think what's kept me there is the kindness of everyone. And what's great is everyone works together. So for example, if someone left lastminute.com and went to Expedia, we'd put hitmen on them. Do you know, we would so angry and hurt, but hospitality is quite incestuous, that it is that you'll go from Wagamama to Itsu to Nando's to, but the great thing is everyone shares in each other's success. So there's not actually lots of competition, and people realise that if you are Wagamama, you can't eat there morning, noon and night it's just impossible. So our job as people within hospitality is just to get people out of home. That's the job. And then from there, the good ones will do well and the bad ones need to up their game. And that's about it. I mean, there's added complexity now with, COVID obviously and Deliveroo and all these things. But really, essentially, our job is in the main to get people out to eat in our establishments.
So what is it exactly that excites you the most about the industry or the work that you do? What kind of gets you going?
It's behind. So I think I quite like a damsel or a male in distress. I like helping people. And I think because of my past experiences, I'll hopefully just understand, I've got a little bit more insight into e-com and how retailers would do it or finance would do it, or you know, or even, you know, the more ahead sectors like gambling and, dare I say it, porn, you know, and things like that. These are the ones that are the movers and shakers in how we adopt behaviour, is what we do with our life. And hospitality's been the unloved and slightly behind industry. You know, the budgets aren't there. So whatever you've got to go up. You know, you've got to make it absolutely count. So an example would be lastminute.com, the marketing budget was something like 23.3 million.
Mhm.
When I got into Yo Sushi, for example, the marketing budget was under £300,000
Whoa.
for 50 sites across the world. So so
Well, that's shocking.
but it's just the way. But I like that test because it's easy to spend money badly. Super easy, you know, just do a TV ad and, you know, you'll still get an effect from it. But I think what I really enjoy is my feet being held to the fire. You know, I really enjoy me testing how good I can be, my teams can be, my agencies can be, to get a result from not much money. That's the excitement.
Yeah, they say, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, isn't it? So when you are in those situations and you have to, and you're competing with such massive brands, and Yo Sushi isn't an insignificant brand either. It's not a small brand, but it is that's quite surprising to hear that was their spend at that time. And how inventive could you be? Were they like, okay, we just want to hear your ideas. We will give you the free reign of here's your pot of money. Go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't quite here's your pot of money. You know, you had to fight and justify, or honestly, anything, which is the right way to do it. You know, to make profit, I suppose. But yeah, they were good. I mean, Robin and Alison, were good and trusting of me, and they hired me because I still think I'm a 14-year-old kid in Air Jordans. You know, sort of. So, and I could bring, you know, my past was NME, Loaded Magazine, student marketing, lastminute.com. We used to do, you know, pretty exciting stuff as well, like, you know, dress all the statues up in London in pink, you know, do guerrilla thing. I think before the bombings and stuff as well, we actually had first class underground carriages as stunts. So people would go in and they'd get champagne, like, you know, on the tube, you know, so it was fun stuff like that. So so that inventive guerrilla bit in me was there, and you had to be a bit kind of stunty. So for example, we created a street team called the Japarazzi, and what they were was a bunch of, you know, it probably wouldn't go down that well now, I suppose, but it was the sort of Shinjuku maids, you know, the Japanese maids, you know, all dressed up, Asian, you know, people going out and asking people to lose their sushi virginity. So what we had figured out was if we could get people to come and try Yo Sushi, then a third of those people would come back. So it was just that getting them in. So we would say, come in for free, have any dish you want, even if it's £6, it's on the belt for free. If you don't like it, throw it at us. If you like it, we'll give you that one for free, keep eating, or there's a bounce back, blah, blah, blah. And that strategy made a huge difference. And then what happened was a chain of events from there. So the Metro picked up that we were doing it. So the Metro then put us, they used to do this anyway, I don't know if they do it now, but they put us in the top right-hand corner saying free sushi for every reader. So we switched off our campaign to make it exclusive for them.
Yeah.
So that, you know, and then Nissan got in touch and said, would you like 3 cars to give away? And can your team, you know, the girls, can they be in our ads? And it was like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm saying girls rather than women. I mean, they were young women, you know, so they were, you know, 17, 18 out of work actors or whatever. Yeah, so we then had them in the ads with joint ads with Nissan. We then got the database from all the competition entries. We got loans of the cars for a while. We used them with the street team. So it was this Nissan Cube. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a kind of very Japanese looking car, you know, like a box.
I know. Yeah.
So I think it's, if you try enough stuff, a couple of things will stick, you know. So yes, you had to just be really cute with your money. And that year I remember as well, out of the under 300,000, 70,000 of that was going on websites. So you were in, which we won 2 Webbies for, which we were very pleased with. I mean, that was amazing. But yes, that left you with 230. And, you know, the example I'll always give for hospitality when anyone questions marketing budget, just to frame it, venues will spend more in pink spray for cleaning up than they will on what the budget I had, or we had. So yes, you've always got to put it into context, because hospitality is operator-led, and most of the companies don't understand or value marketing whatsoever.
So, you know, kind of a wider question that I always think is, because of that, was there a big importance placed then on building that brand more than anything? Because I think kind of, you know, kind of Yo Sushi nowadays is almost synonymous with, you know, kind of when you visit lots of cities and things like that, you go, okay, I'll find a Yo Sushi. How important is brand in building kind of that?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the first things that we really did, you know, when I went in. So I've been lucky that when I was at lastminute.com, I met a guy called Robert Bean. And Robert is, you know, a brand expert. So he worked on things like BT, It's Good to Talk, if anyone's old enough to remember that. Honda Power, Lizzie maybe. So Honda Power, if not, you can look it up on YouTube. Honda Power of Dreams, where all the car parts hit each other, and, you know, some big things. And I got tasked with him to reposition all the brands within lastminute.com, and we had 28. And they all bid against each other on things like, you know, PPC terms. It's madness. And they all made no money. Basically like charity. So I think from learning that process, I then always wanted to replicate that wherever I went. And so we brought Robert in, and we defined Yo Sushi as being a bit of a interactive dining experience. So it was meant to be a bit like a Slice of Tokyo and Escape to Tokyo for that 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever you're in. And that then allowed us to just make that the centre of everything. So culture, products and services, reputation, the 3 most important circles in that. So any marketing we're doing, it had to be like hyper real, you know, as if it was Japanese. The products and service, you know, we had to try and make it a little bit more authentic. What would we see? So again, they were very kind. They sent us out to Japan. And, you know, we had to go out there and have a look at everything that was going on, and then obviously bring that back. So I think it was a huge thing, and winning that Webbie was massive, and the 2 Webbies. And then on social media, we were cited as the most, and like for a very short window, the most influential restaurant brand in social, and we spent a lot on that. So we took around 10,000 a month alone on basic social media support. And back in 2010, that was a lot of money, you know, to spend on social, you know, like especially for that. So we put all of our bets on social. And what I did was I bought, I could see in China or Japan, I think it was Japan, and we had to get them through China, but there was lightsaber chopsticks, Star Wars lightsaber chopsticks, and they were $13 or something like that. So I bought almost like a crate of those, and we just gave them away to like every follower that we got. Just grew, you know, for the sake of, you know, cost per head. I mean, by the end of it, it wasn't that much. You know, we got the money, the cost down. So it was those kind of, we were pretty leading. And then we hired an agency called Punctilio, and they did Simon Cowell's stuff. They did Arsenal stuff. They did stuff for the Sun Sport, which was pretty edgy back then. So yeah, so, you know, we were punching above our weight, and Yo still had a bit of a cachet that PR companies wanted to work with us, digital companies wanted to work with. They still felt that they're, you know, it's kind of like working with Brewdog now or something, you know, there'll be a bit of rub off that, you know, you're a good agency. So we were really lucky. We got bargains that, you know, companies that would usually cost a lot of money seemed to ditch their fees for us, so which was a lovely thing. But then we obviously made it fair, you know, longer down the line, and you know, paid them in sushi and whatnot. But yeah, I felt it was a good value exchange there.
Awesome.
So we've touched on, you know, you touched on very much earlier about how maybe the industry is being disrupted particularly, I mean, we've had the last year has been dreadful, I imagine, for the hospitality industry. We can go on to the app side of stuff later, but what actually has happened with COVID? That's a massive question. But what was the actual impact, and are there green shoots of recovery as we come out of it? What's the strategy? What would be the strategy to come out of this?
Yeah, there's a lot in that. I mean, I think so. What you'll hear about is pivoting, the old Ross from Friends thing, I suppose. But that's a big thing that everyone sort of is talking about, and it's cliched, and but it's kind of what happened. Now, what you saw was a few things happening. Some bigger operators just disappeared, so they just put everyone in furlough, mothballed everything, got out of Dodge, and they just thought we'll sit. And I found that disappointing because they didn't keep up their comms with their customer, the most important thing. So then there was another thing that happened that some people, shouted to things like Yummy Pubs, Dishoom, Leon, Tortilla, Ivy Collection, Caring Foundation, so many great things happened where people just went, we're needed, and, almost like running into a burning building. They just went, sod the cost, sod everything. We're going to just help frontline workers. We're going to provide meals. We're going to give stuff away. We don't care. And it's not even, oh, we'll get it eventually. It's just absolute selflessness, which was incredible. And then you had a third thing that sort of happened more towards the summer when people realised this was going to be a long-term thing, where you had this, what they call makeaway sort of section, where I only learned the word lately. I think it's great, but I think it's distinct from your recipe boxes, so it's different from Gusto, HelloFresh, Mindful Chef. This is you having a restaurant quality meal from your favourite restaurants at home. The trouble with that was people weren't set up for it. They had to do a lot of food development, pricing, learning. How do you work with someone like Hermes, DPD? They just didn't have any of that knowledge. So they did so well. I mean, the entire industry, hats off to them. But what you found was most of them, apart from, I think there's some ones out there that did extremely well. Hawksmoor, Coat at Home, Dishoom did well, Bleecker, Burger, Pizza Pilgrims. But a lot of them did it, and it sort of made ends meet or broke even. But I think it was a valiant effort on them just, staying relevant,
Yeah.
And also Six by Nico, but it's been seen as one of the ones to look at. So what they did every week or weeks, I believe, was they did an adventure box. So it was quite exciting, and it was like, this is from, the islands of Scotland. This is from Vietnam. This is from America. This, it was, and the whole book was a map, and so I think people started to understand that you could create that experience at home. Now, something the hospitality industry has maybe even been a little bit arrogant on, since I've been in it, is they've always said, we will be the last to go. In terms of online, you can't replicate pubs, you can't replicate restaurants. And that's true for a certain amount of people. But with the younger audiences coming through, they'll grow up in a different world. So that might not always be there. And, and I always think about, the Gary Vaynerchuk phrase where he talks about everyone's fine till they get punched in the face. And you've got a plan till you get punched in the face, and this was our punch in the face. And I think I'd been saying it for a long time, actually cheesing some people off, that if you think, and this isn't to be negative because everyone's doing their best, but if you think that you can just run a restaurant now within 4 walls and do, lunch and dinner service, you're sort of kidding yourself. I mean, there'll be a few out there that can do that, but not many. So I think it's about you being omnipresent, omni-channel, and you need a logistics distribution strategy, and it's all about the customer. What is their perception of you, and where is their attention? Where are you going to get into their bellies, if we want to get crass? But so from that point of view, it's a huge thing. It's not going to go away. But I think what's going to happen is there's been so many people doing it as a means to an end, and they just won't have the investment, the foresight, whatever. They'll just switch back to doing their restaurant. And almost like that Top Gun thing with, you know, when they slam the brakes on and the other planes fly by, I think loads will slam their brakes on, and there's going to be about a handful, let's say 20 or so, that are just going to keep going, and they're going to have that income stream. They're going to have restaurant income stream. They're going to have Deliveroo restaurant stream. And also with Deliveroo, you know, people have started to understand that, you know, it's part of the game, it's part of the strategy. And, you know, it was seen as the devil, you know, before, and almost is in the letters, I suppose. But, you know, but from that, I think it's one of these things where so many operators think about what they think is right and not what's right for the customer. And Deliveroo exists because customers want it, you know. Tabloid news exists because some customers want it, you know. As much as we don't like it, it's the way it is. So then the job that you have to do with Deliveroo, for example, is just try and be as smart as you can, negotiate as hard as you can to get everything down. Pricing's really important, how you're seen on there, the aggregation. I mean, you've got to make it work. If it just doesn't work money-wise and you don't think there's a brand benefit, then, you know, you might want to come off it. There might be other ways. But I think that seems to be the way. And also, what about voice? What about Amazon? And there's so many restaurant brands that I know that just wouldn't be seen dead on Amazon. Or they'll say something like, but I'll pick an example, but we're Carluccio's. How could we possibly, you know, be an Amazon? It's like, just get some tomato sauce up there, you know, or, you know, get a curated box of wine up there, you know, anything. Because, you know, this was years ago when I did a podcast with an Amazon guy now, and even then it was 52% of all product searches started on Amazon. So why would you not be there? Like, I know there's people that are obviously, you know, reticent about brand saturation and all these things, but it's just your go-to now. You don't even search for a product on Google anymore. You just go straight to Amazon.
I was going to say, how sustainable is them? It's as, I mean, technology is disrupting every aspect of our lives, and so it was inevitable that the hospitality sector was going to be disrupted, and will continue to be disrupted. Technology is not, you know, technology is a moving beast, isn't it? It never stops. But how? So ultimately, technology has got to be good for the sector, but it's got to be. There is always going to be winners and losers. So how kind of like sustainable or ethical do you think these kinds of approaches are, particularly with, you know, with the Deliveroo? And we all use Deliveroo, so we can't sit back and go, oh, it's dreadful, because we use it. As I said, we buy the papers, we consume this stuff. So where does the sort of sustainability and maybe the ethical question come in, or is it out the window now?
Well, it'd be interesting. I would like to think that something might happen over the next year or so, that maybe another player will come in that's successful, that, you know, maybe doesn't charge as much or doesn't have you buy the short and curlies. I think one of the biggest issues, I think, as well, is the data, and again, it's no disrespect to Deliveroo, they're doing exactly what most business people would do, but they've got all the data, they know what's selling where, you know, they've got all these advantages, and, you know, the hospitality people just won't have that. So I guess you would be hoping that some bright spark might come in and say, well, maybe there's a way to do it fairer and more transparent and be a true partner to the, you know, to the restaurants. You know, in terms of sustainability, you know, if you're meaning environmentally as well, there are issues with that. You know, like packaging is tough. You know, probably one of the best packaging out there is Wagamama. It's a beautiful thing to have, but it's terribly unsustainable, I would imagine.
Yeah, we've cut down on our Wagamama takeaway because it kept coming in these plastic tubs, and we've kept them. We use them for other things, but it's like we can't. We have actually changed our buying, our consumerism, on the fact that we can't justify having these plastic tubs every single time we order something.
it's like the desserts, like goo, you know, and there's only so many glass ramekins you can have, you know, you've just got like a cupboard for them. But yeah, so there's definitely some thinking about that. But to be fair to Wagamama, you know, I mean, I know they put in an inordinate amount of investment and effort into that, and it was to please the customer. Like, it's really hard to keep soupy noodles in a decent state. You know, it's not very travelable. So it is really difficult. So I think there's that, and also it won't be before long that everyone's talking about the wastage. I mean, they probably are already, but you know, I'm not party to it yet. But the waste of fuel and miles, and you know, because if someone's just ordering one McMuffin from, you know, McDonald's or whatever, I mean, you can get that delivered. I mean, a delightful thing to have, obviously, at times. But you know, in terms of the miles, I mean, you can think about all that as well. That's you know, it's not going to be great as they get even bigger.
I think
technology might solve that.
I think these are important questions to be had, though, and I think that we do need to, you know, on the one hand, we're being told there's a climate crisis and we need to act and we need to do things. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, but I'll still have my delivery. I'll still have everything delivered to me. I'll still get those plastic packages. I want the convenience. I will buy something off Amazon and I will have it delivered to me the next day.
Yeah.
And yet, oh, isn't it terrible? The environment. So we as consumers have to also, you know, decide what we want. Yeah. But I do think it's a two-way, you know, with the providers and with the companies themselves as well, to help educate us, and we also can all be part of that journey of making this more ethical, more sustainable, because it has to happen.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think also if that Bright Spark came into the market and said, right, we've got a business model that we don't need to make as much, but you know, we can lower those margins. We can have e-bikes or, you know, robots or drone, or you can only get it delivered if there's so much of it in bulk. Then, you know, it's starting to form it. And then if that person said, well, you're not getting on our system until you pass the carbon neutral test, or, you know, whatever. So, you know, there's a long way to go, but I think it's an open goal. I think it's waiting there for someone, because it almost feels like Deliveroo is a monopoly. I know you've got Just Eat, and as fabulous as Snoop Dogg ads are, you know, I don't think they're anywhere near, you know, the customer convenience of Deliveroo. They're just nowhere near that.
Yeah. I think as well, I think a really interesting product that I've been using in the last 6 months is HelloFresh. And I think that there might be a bit of a hybrid in between the two, because obviously HelloFresh, you receive all of the ingredients for the products and you have to make it yourself.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that there's potentially kind of a ability to move food in because they're packaged really quite well and really quite sustainable for the environment, and reduce food waste because you just get what you need. But I don't know if there's kind of a hybrid between the two where you'd I don't know, pre-order your food for the week, you know, from your favorite restaurants or something like that. I don't know if there's, you know, something like that.
Interestingly, Wagamama hooked up with Gusto, I think, to you know, have their meals in that format, and it didn't go well.
It didn't.
It stopped. So I'm imagining it didn't. So you know, I thought it was a tremendous idea, but it just never got that adoption. I wonder if they were just ahead of the curve a bit. You know, where if they just stayed in there, they could have done it, you know, sort of a bit better. I mean, because again, what's the difference slightly from buying a Pizza Express in the supermarket? And you know, they'll sell more of those than they do pizzas in the restaurants. You know, so it's a huge business opportunity for sure. But yeah, no, I think they're good. I mean, thinking about HelloFresh, I'm sure it was them. There's something like or maybe it's Mindful Chef. One of them's nearly 4 billion in terms of global turnover.
I think that's probably HelloFresh. HelloFresh is the market leader in that. Yeah. It's. I think the thing that got me sort of attracted to the brand, and the idea more than anything is like, you know, the fact that there is kind of zero waste, and you get kind of the food that you just need. You don't get all of the, you know, extra food. I think one thing that they kind of missed on though is you can only I know at Gusto, for example, you can only order 4 meals in a week, and HelloFresh you can only order 5, which okay in normal times would have been fine, but when during COVID I need to eat 7 days a week, so you still ended up having to go out and buy other food. So it kind of I think that they had kind of extreme growth obviously during the pandemic, but I don't know if they innovated as much, and I didn't know about the Wagamamas thing at Gusto, but I don't know if there's maybe Wagamamas wasn't the right brand for Gusto's customers, who knows, but I think that there's this opportunity kind of just goes to show kind of the importance of brand, but of having that sort of quality food that you can enjoy at home.
Yeah, and the amount of money they're spending on advertising is staggering.
Mm-hmm.
Like just saw some figures the other day, and I think it was one of them was spending about 11 million, on TV and outdoor. So
yeah. And they do, and they do big discounts as well, don't they, when you first join? Yeah. I think, this has kind of been a common theme, I think, throughout my food buying behavior through the pandemic, has always been like people offering discounts. They entice you in. You go like, the Hello Fresh box, I think the first one, you get like 60% off, and then you get 30% off your next ones. And at that point, it's cheaper than going out and doing a weekly shop, to get the food. And the same with like Uber Eats, for example. I feel like every month or something like that, they do like 50% off to try and encourage you to use the app.
You're a marketing person, nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, try going for dinner with him, because it's like, hang on, where's got some discounts that gets his. So where can we go for dinner? But we're odd box in our family. We're in the household. We're all, which means it's an adventure every week. You have no idea what's going to arrive. It arrived overnight last night, and you just open the box and you just don't know what's going to be in there. You don't know what shape it's going to be in. And that forces you to, I think, be more creative with your cooking.
I love how Lizzie's like, that forces you. It forces Lizzie's wife, Holly, who's definitely the chef of the house.
I can smell something that you cook delicious, right? Okay, the caveat is I don't do the cooking, but it forces my wife to do some amazing cooking. But I think that in that, it makes it more of an adventure. Like you don't know what you're getting, you don't know what you're about. And I think what we want is both novelty and normal, like consistency. So we are really, as creatures, we're really, really complex in some ways. It's like we want something new, but we also want something that we can trust.
Yeah, something like consistent. Yeah. I think the other thing, about the hospitality stuff is there's so many people sweating it about these boxes because they're saying, and delivery or whatever, will that cannibalise people going to the restaurant? And I don't know if it will. I think it's much more, it will displace supermarkets and supermarket meals and Marks and Spencer's dine-in for 10 and blah, blah, blah. So I think it's those people that I would be more concerned about,
Yeah, so prior to the pandemic, I used to travel a lot with work and eat out a lot and things like that. And even now, so when we're recording this for the audience that's listening, just this week they've opened up the indoor of restaurants in the UK, and I'm already excited. Already got meals planned over the next few weeks to go out and eat, because I think it's a completely different experience when you're eating out of delivery package in your home, when you're going out to a restaurant and having those sort of experiences. And I think I definitely agree. I think the biggest threat is probably more to supermarkets. Spend less in the supermarket. Now you go to HelloFresh or whatever. But then you kind of, I think, in the UK at least, Morrison's is kind of innovating on that food front in the supermarket space, got their own box, which is actually cheaper if you've got a family of 4 than if you went to, HelloFresh. So I think that I think we're very much at the early cusp of this kind of revolution, so to speak. But it's so, I don't know, I just for our listeners, if you haven't before, the convenience of on a Tuesday your food for the week arriving in a box and then all in individual paper bags for you to stick in your fridge is second to none. You don't. Yeah, I wish we should reach out and see if they'll give us a promo code so Brandon can get some free meals for the next few weeks.
I think going back to this, will people eat out? I think yes, they will, because we went out for a meal last night just at our local pub just down the road, and it was the first time we've been out in, I don't know, everyone, months and months and months. And I think what we've done is I appreciated it so much more. I hope I don't take it for granted as much. It's a small independent pub, fantastic food, really food that is actually lovingly created, lovingly made. And it's just made me realize that if we want these things to survive, we can't go, oh, isn't it terribly sad if that restaurant goes, or if that restaurant, well, we have to go and we have to be in them, we have to go to them, we have to use them. And it's that social side of us. We interact, we're human, we want that social interaction. And it was so delightful to hear laughter in an enclosed space. And and that is an experience that has taken it right down to the basics, in a space with other human beings, hearing laughter and the food and the clink and the nice, and it's so basic, but it's so comforting. And I think that is what has been missed. And I'm hopeful that people will start to tap back into that and will go to these pubs and restaurants and eateries and have that experience again.
I'm hearing some. Do you want to give them a shout out as well? It might be good. They might get some business.
It's the Better Half.
That's a great place. Yeah.
Fantastic, and they've got a new chef evidently, and the chef last night it's brilliant food. It was absolutely brilliant food.
Yeah. Well, it's a really good point, just because it's on my mind at the moment. I've got live briefs about this stuff, and one of the best things that can hopefully come out of this is that hospitality is appreciated. So there's a massive issue at the moment of people that have been on furlough for all this time. Now that furlough's over, they're just handing in their notice and going, do you know what? I'm going to go and work in a call centre. There's been a huge bunch of people reassessing their life. There's also a perception out there of you want to go to a restaurant, but you wouldn't want your kids working in one, So it's also like, when are you going to get a real job? So there's that sort of stuff going on at the moment. So I'm hopefully working with a few people that are notable in the industry to do almost like a campaign that's like a recruitment campaign, like like the Army did, or the Navy, Be the Best, or what, just something that we can go out and just go, this is what we're wanting to do. Because I'm hearing across the board, shortage of chefs is out of control.
Really?
It's been Brexit, it's been this pandemic, it's been all sorts of things. So that's a massive issue. There's chef burnout, mental health, long hours, this and that. So we need to sort that out. And I'm hearing already people are not being able to reopen because they don't have chefs.
Wow.
And so they're having to stay closed. I mean, it's not like they're out of business, it's just they can't physically open. So that is just one of the biggest things. And I hope that people will start to appreciate it, see it more of as a career, etc. So there's a lot of work, behind the scenes going on about that at the moment, because we won't have a hospitality industry if things keep going the way they're going. So Brandon will be in the back with his own dinner at the better. So it's a big problem.
Well, I'm very acutely aware of the time that we're running out of. And so I wanted to have a much larger discussion about this, but maybe we'll have to save it for another day. But, I think influencer marketing, particularly during the pandemic, that TikTok has given me such a big list of restaurants in London that I want to go and visit when I'm back. What sort of role now is kind of the modern day influencer, creator, social media playing in restaurants? Kind of very briefly.
Yeah, not big enough. So they get a bad name in the hospitality industry, which is, here's this freeloader wanting free dinner for their 100 followers. So it's wide. I mean, I'm talking 95% of the industry would just go, no, like, you know, we're not doing it. It's just a freeloader. So there's a job to do to help hospitality people understand what a good influencer can do for them.
Yeah.
The other thing is they are using influencers that are saying yes to everyone. So I think, you know, what you're going to need is a mix of big influencers, middle influencers, and micro. And also, I think what you need is long-term relationships and commitment with them to build your brand with their audience, rather than 1 week they're with Coat, the next week they're with Cafe Rouge, the next week they're with KFC, and we see a lot of that. So it's like the Mercury Music Prize in music. You can never tell who's sponsoring it that year. It's just somebody else, and you don't care. So, and then I think there's a question around content. I honestly think it's a miseducation. I don't think hospitality people in the main actually really harness the power of social. And B, the next level up is paid social, and then the next level up would be influencer. I don't think they know what to do with them. So what will happen is they have one influencer night, keyword being night. So what does that give you? Terrible light and lighting. So, you know, and then it basically is just a schmoozing party that some people put out. So there's no rigor in it. So I think the best thing that we can do for the industry is look at successful, huge influencer campaigns for brands, and then unpick all the things that had to happen to make that incredible, and then bring it down to, you know, what hospitality could stomach, afford, you know, and manage and that. But it's almost a swear word. If you pick up our influencers or say anything about influencers, they'll just be like, what, free meals? No way. And it's a bad mindset. So there's a big job to do, because, you know, and also I would argue as well, most of the industry has stopped or drawn a line under social before TikTok. So very few of them in the main are actually, I'm guilty of it. I'm not as au fait with TikTok as I am the other, you know, channels, and, you know, shame on me. But I think that they have to get into it, and they have to live it and breathe it and understand it. And again, they're just going, oh, what, those stupid dancing videos? What's that about? And I think the ones that go in and crack it well will connect with that, you know, the younger audience, or slightly. I don't even know if it is younger audience now, is it? It's just a mainstream thing.
I think it's audience. I think it is. I think it's interesting around the TikTok. It's taken. I think even I remember the time, Mark. I don't know if you do, but I remember the time before even email.
Yeah.
I was at university when we had the first email, and I was like, who's going to use this? I mean, you know, who would I write to? And I think it's the kind of similar thing. It's like, why would we, what is the point of this? There's no imagination, and there's no kind of like understanding that innovation happens in different ways. It doesn't have to be in a linear way. And innovation often comes from disruptors coming in and forcing change. So I think it's inevitable that the TikTok, or the, you know, that's the platform of the moment. It could be something else in a few years' time, but it's this engagement social. It is inevitable that this is going to have to be something people are going to do, because the sheer wave of change that's happening. You either get knocked over by it, or you'll go with it. And that's what we saw when in the publishing industry, when magazines are around, but they're not around the volume. Newspapers, all of these, the printed paper, anything like that, absolutely disrupted, blown out of the water. People saying it'll never happen,
DVDs.
DVDs. We have to try it, and it's that mindset, and it's an education piece, because it's if you're not in it, I don't understand the argument of not even trying. That's what I don't get, because if it's on a base of principle, then that's nonsense.
I think it's time. In all honesty, so if I give you the example of you again, 52 restaurant, whatever it was, there was only me and one other running all of that. So, and also what I'm finding in the market is marketers are getting more expensive and they also want to do less. So marketing's becoming even more specialised. We used to be able to get one person that would be a generalist and sort of turn their hand to everything, which was not great. But now it's, oh, you need a social media person. Well, yeah, but then you need a content creator. Then you need an analyst. Then you need a, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, the digital department, if you want to split it out, you know, can be looking at 12, 9, 11, whatever posts, jobs. So I think there's a real fear as well. Yeah. And also, I think, to be fair to them, I think they want to do it when they feel like they can do a good job consistently rather than dip in and out. So, yeah, but and also the other thing is I think a lot of marketing departments are probably millennial at the moment, maybe even top end of millennial, certainly the bosses will be. So, again, you know, they'll ask people to do what they think's right, and they're probably as afraid of TikTok as I am. So, you know, and I think the thing is, I think with TikTok, it just seems like hard work. It's harder work than.
But I think, but I think this is where you get perhaps, I don't know, we've got to stop in a moment, but you know, we get younger people in. You get
absolutely
that stuff. You know,
look, I found
to them.
found so many restaurants, and you just see like the amazing looking burgers and the food, and it's just, you know, you're there and you're catching it. But anyway, Mark, I'm aware of the time, so thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find out more about you?
Real pleasure. So on Twitter and Instagram, at Supersonic _Inc. At Supersonic _Inc. And my website is supersonic.marketing. So very simple. Nothing. No.
Awesome.
.com, whatever. And LinkedIn, just my name, Mark McColloch. I'm there. It's me and a Scottish footballer.
And Lizzie, where can people find out more about you?
You can find out more about me at lizziehodgson.com or on Twitter at LHDGSN. And I'm also Lizzie Hodgson on LinkedIn.
And you can find out all about me at brandonralph.com. And I'm even easier. I'm at Brandon Ralph everywhere. So you can find me TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, a lot, and on LinkedIn, of course. But thank you all for listening. And we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
A Studio B production.